I am the CEO of Lomiko Metals, and as you can see, our company Lomiko is listed on the TSX under the symbol LMR, and on the OTC under the symbol LMRMF. As you can see also by our statement, what we look to do is to supply graphite to what we call is the electric vehicle revolution. And we've been watching, as everyone has, the kind of exciting things that have been going on at Tesla. And following that, many different groups have looked at Rivian and Nikola, the other EV companies. And these are all things that are very, very good. And we just had a great presentation from IDX, which is also in the very similar situation. All of these companies have one thing in common. They need to have graphite for their batteries. And what we hope to do is to break into that supply chain and produce that material. So I'm here to talk about that. So as I was saying, basically we're based in Quebec as Lomiko Metals. We've been there for 5 years exploring this graphite property. And what we're looking to do is focus solely on the development and processing of graphite for spherical graphite and graphite anodes. This is a very important component of the lithium-ion battery, and something that we have, I think, a vested interest in doing here in Quebec, which has, I think, one of the best situations for development of mining opportunities. We now own the property 80%, and then we're working on a 43-101 metallurgy and a PEA before going to a feasibility study. When we look at the rise of the electric cars, what we're seeing today is just a start of the electric vehicle revolution, as I alluded to earlier. By 2022, which is another couple years, we will see the cost of the internal combustion and the electric vehicles really being the same. And then the ongoing maintenance cost of electric vehicles being very much smaller, and the operating costs being very much smaller. So it makes so much sense to have that EV that people will flock in droves to it. There'll be a few holdouts who like the muscle cars, but I think that's not going to be a majority of people. Majority of people will using cars for transportation will see this as a logical choice. So what does that mean? When you build a car, you also have to have a supply chain around it. And what we've seen already is the ramp up of lithium-ion megafactories in China, in Australia, in the USA. And so we're going to continue to see more and more of those being built in order to supply the cars that are there today and will be growing tomorrow. So when we drill down into what are the materials used, we see graphite, nickel, aluminum, copper, lithium, cobalt, manganese are all part of the suite of metal that is used. 92 kilograms, though, of a battery there's 92 kilograms of graphite in a Tesla battery, however. Now that's 15 times more than lithium. So if you remember the lithium boom a few years ago, we're going to see, I think, a very similar boom in graphite very shortly, because some of the major producers have stopped producing. China has stopped exporting, and we're seeing a real crunch in the supply chain, which means companies like us who are still speculative in nature will get some interest. So this is something to watch in the immediate future, within the next month or two, what happens, because at the end of the year is when all those purchases are made in graphite, and we'll see what the real prices are. Now, the appearance and properties of flake graphite are very interesting. You can see the pictures of the flake graphite and the blown up pictures. The reason why graphite is important is that it's excellent electrical conductivity. It's readily available in Canada. It accommodates the lithium charging, and it has all of the things that are necessary to function within a lithium-ion battery at a very good price. So there's really no economic alternative right now to graphite. So that's something that to remember, that, you know, maybe someone will say, oh, instead of cobalt, you use more manganese. Cobalt's not as interesting now, but you always need graphite. So that's something to keep in mind. Graphite, graphite, graphite. That's your ticket to a stable growth economy within this field of various different materials. So beyond just electric vehicles, there are other types of um, areas in which the graphite is used. Refractories, batteries are still there, but growing. This is of course, the batteries are the most important one because they're continuing to grow. Foundries, crucibles, lubricants, engineered value-added products, expanded products. Of course, there is lubricants. We also have brake shoes as well that are continuing to be used for graphite. So there's a number of different markets for the graphite. So if you have a deposit of various levels or various types of graphite, you can use one for electric vehicles, one type for electric vehicles. You can process another section of it for lubricants, or another section of it for refractories and other types of materials. And it all depends on the flake size and the carbon purity. And so let's take a look at what those prices are. So if you look at the top, you see that in Europe, there is an additives market, and that market goes for $700 per ton. And it's 94% carbon purity and 100 mesh. So the mesh size is the micron size, essentially. It's a type of differentiator, how you organize these particular size of the particles of graphite. So if you go down there, you see all these various types have different price levels. But when you get to graphite, spherical graphite, that is the one where there's a big jump in the price, and it's very important. That's what everyone wants to be in this particular market, and we do, as Lomiko, we do as well. Now, interestingly enough, what's the macroeconomics here? You saw that there's various markets around the world. Well, right now in January, and I put out a news release on this yesterday to talk about the kinds of governmental operations that are going on. Critical elements agreements has been signed between Canada and the US. And what they hope to do is to create North American suppliers for these materials. And we're going to benefit from that. There's also the RARE Act, the Rare Earth Act, the ORE Act, Onshoring Act. These are all Republican-driven and multi-party supported types of governmental actions that are going to come about and bring more attention on producing materials in North America. So when we get to the property itself, this is the slides I want you to take very good attention to. The property in pink is 2,800 hectares, and you can see it in the middle of your screen, the Loutre property. 21 drill holes were completed in 2019. There's a road built. There's a highway going past it, but there's a road built right to the property. 192 kilometers from the Port of Montreal, as you can see in the blue. And then near surface mineralization, open pit target. And it's also very close to the Imerys carbon and graphite mine, which is the only operating graphite mine in all of North America. So we know that this is a good area to be in. The type of materials we hope are going to be very similar. So that will come out in the metallurgy and be very important. Continuing along, we've only drilled 2 areas. of interest, the graphene battery zone and the refractory zone. Both of those we have results, and they were both near service. Here's the graphene battery zone, which is produced into a 43101. It has a number of drill holes into it, and you can see the types of cutoff levels and the indicated resource. At the top end is a 3% cutoff. You have 4 million tons of 6.5%. And if you go back and you'll see, well, how's that compared to the operating mine? Well, you'll see here, the operating mine has 5.2 million tons of 7.42%. So we're very close there. And we have not only indicated, we also have the inferred resources. So it's very exciting that we're very close just on this one project, one particular zone alone. We are very similar to Imerys, but that wasn't quite good enough for me. I wanted to make sure we had over the top economics so that there was no doubt that this could be a producing mine. And we found that if you look at these two blue drill holes, LL16001 and LL16003, you'll see that one was 135 meters of 7.7%, and the other one was 110 meters of 14%. Some of those are intercepted at an angle. So one was intercepted 30 meters below surface, but we're very assured that it goes to surface. And the other one was 3 meters below surface. So we have a very excellent starter pit just on those two holes alone. And we're very excited about that. But we didn't stop there. We continued because we love to add more and more value. We continued to see big intercepts of graphite in other drill holes in that particular vicinity, 15 meters of 18%, 87 meters of 7%, another result. And you can see all the highlights that are there. Very, very good results. And when you string them all together, you get a picture of a very good area of mineralization all the way through this area. Now, of course, we'll have to do more definition drilling, but it's very exciting times for us because now the next step is to really define that into a resource, complete metallurgy, and then go to PEA. So we know what we have. We have a whole section of drill holes that are above 10%, and some are also 100 meters or more. That's very good news. Also good news, no reports of sulfur, which is a problem in processing. Shares, currently we have 112 million shares outstanding shares. Most of those are 25 million shares at 5 cents, and then another 25 million at 10 cents are the majority of those. And then fully diluted, we have that amount. So at this point, I think what we can do is look at question and answer. Gilbert, would you like to take over a little bit of that if there's any questions?
We'll have a few questions here to go over with you. First one up, Franklin here is asking, when will your project be able to supply graphite to the batteries companies? Maybe?
Yeah, very good question. When will we be able to supply graphite? When you write us a check. Because ultimately, how fast we go depends on the kinds of funding we have. At this point, we're a very low level of share price. We want to increase our awareness out there to tell people what we have. But really, we're going to take a step at a time. We need to do two things now: metallurgy and 43101. That's going to cost $500,000. So we're looking to put money in the bank for that. And then the next step will be a PEA, a preliminary economic assessment. That'll be $2 million. That'll be the next step within a year. And then a feasibility study the year after that. So we're still probably 3.5 to 4 years away. But there, as you can see from that trend lines, we have many, many years of high growth ahead of us. So we're not concerned about that. We just want to make sure that we get there.
Okay. And the second question coming from the Chinese feed here from you. She's asking what's the demand? I think she's wanting to say how what's the actual like graphite is needed for, let's say, the batteries in an EV? Do you have any idea like
Yeah,
how much?
yeah. Here's a good way to think of it. For every 1 million Teslas made, you need 300,000 tons of graphite.
Hmm.
So one mine produces only 25,000 tons. So you can see that there's going to be a shortfall. Now, what's happening is also synthetic graphite, which was produced using coal and oil, that's ramping down. So now we're replacing with graphite, natural flake graphite. Well, the only way to really get those mines funded is to have an increased price so that people start funding companies like ours who can then go to produce the graphite.
Okay. Let me throw you the last question from Chris Steele here. So he was asking any offtake agreements actually need to be signed?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be looking for offtake agreements. At this point, we're a little too early stage. What happens is that we have received a letter of support from Investment Quebec, which is a very good sign, meaning that if we complete our preliminary economic assessment, they will assist us by providing 20% of the funding for the project. And then addition to that, then we'll be able to go on road shows and find some of these offtake agreements at the PEA stage, because then we'll have a good idea of what's going on. We'll be able to fund the pilot project. A very similar company to ours is Nouveau Monde, NOU, which is a very similar situation. They have gone through that process. They're now 50 to 60 million market cap. They've raised 35, 40 million in debt. We think we can do exactly what they do. We're only 5 million market cap. So we have a lot of growing to do.
Okay, that's it. Thank you for your time, Paul.